All right, Katie, welcome to the
Thanks, Matt.
22nd 2020 Cyber Future Summit. I know we met last year and we started this journey a couple of years back, and now it's been almost going up on 2 years. So I wanted to make sure that we have a catch up on where things are, how things are going. Um, Again, a little bit of background of the US DoL program. Let's talk about the Cyber Apprenticeship Sprint and what can we do to help. So this San Antonio is Cyber City, the other Cyber City that you are in Georgia last year, right, Augusta. They're represented here as well. So I think there's a continuity in bringing people together. So, but first, a little bit about yourself and background so that we can get this folks acquainted.
Sure. Thanks, Val. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks to CFF for hosting, and it's a real privilege to be able to come up on stage just following Paul and the insight that he shared from the federal level about the cybersecurity workforce shortage. Obviously, this room knows better than anyone that there is a cybersecurity workforce shortage, and there's no end of creative solutions that employers are seeking to meet that challenge. One of the tools that we have been actively encouraging employers to consider is the tool of apprenticeship. And that's been something that has typically been considered the domain of skilled trades, but there has been a consistent growing focus, bipartisan focus, on making sure that industry understands the value, the practical benefits of, the customability of, and the scalability of apprenticeship as it relates to occupations, high demand occupations, especially in cybersecurity and tech. Software Partners is pleased to connect up with CFF a few years ago and to really learn from industry what the workforce needs are and what those pain points are around the ability to invest in and resource programs that have proved to be able to recruit, train, and retain high quality talent. So we've been hard at work at that for the past 2 years. We are a Department of Labor National Industry Intermediary. All of our work is focused on expanding awareness of apprenticeship as a proven model that employers can use for any in-demand occupation. And we've been really hard at work. We've generated some really positive results for industry and for the administration. In the last 2 years, we've supported the engagement of, hiring of, over 1,500 apprentices in cybersecurity and cybersecurity-related career pathway occupations. That's 1,500 new entrants into the field that are being hired by industry. The most exciting thing for me, Val, is that of those 1,500 apprentices, 83% or 8 in 10 of those apprentices are from diverse backgrounds. We know that this industry struggles with and is working hard at combating the diversity and equity gap. And so we're really proud that 83% or 8 in 10 of those apprentices come from diverse backgrounds, including women, minorities, and veterans.
Excellent. And I think, this has been 2 years program, but almost a long time journey prior to that. I mean, from the concept to actual execution, we have learned a lot. Probably compare between the first year of learning and second year of doing. What are your thoughts of what had to be acted on, in terms of priority, taking care of? And this numbers, right, was one of the key areas. Like, how can we show and make sure that the metrics we are working towards not only the metrics but also the outcome. So can you compare a little bit between the first year's, building of the team, second year actual execution, and what we probably talk about next is the going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, apprenticeship, as I said, is still a very new concept to this industry, and there's a high threshold that we need to meet in order to be seen as a credible component of a cyber hiring and retention strategy. And so that first year was really spent working, talking with industry, understanding the need, and really investing a lot of time, energy, and resources in increasing awareness. That's still the single biggest hurdle, is just awareness. There's this outdated paradigm of apprenticeship as something that's applicable to shipyards and construction sites, when in reality, it is the most time-tested, proven method of hiring, training, and retaining high-quality talent. And that is absolutely applicable to cybersecurity. So that first year was really in conjunction with CFF and with a lot of the partners, learning from industry, increasing awareness. The second year in the execution phase was helping a lot of those employers and intermediary partners move to engagement. One of the things that we know about this industry is there are hiring challenges for sure, but a lot of times this industry is more open to working with intermediary partners for contracting purposes. So we've been working with a lot of what would be considered intermediary partners, whether those are training organizations, community colleges, universities, tech staffing agencies, and have created some really innovative models. So for example, we've been working with Manpower through their Experis tech staffing division. They are a group sponsor where essentially an employer is able to work directly with them for the entire cycle of recruiting, screening, interviewing, placing, training, retention, and Manpower takes the bulk of that work on through contract with employers. We have relationships with, again, universities. I'm thinking Prairie View A&M University is doing some fantastic work at engaging employers and placing students who are predominantly from diverse backgrounds into those programs. Again, Prairie View A&M University is then taking on the majority of the responsibility for the training and the placement. So there's a lot of partnership formation that needs to take place, and that's a role that we can play for an employer. We know employers have a limited amount of time, specific goals, usually limited resources in terms of times that they can invest. And so that's really our role, is to come alongside and both engage and equip the team and then help with strategic partnership formation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a long way from where we started in terms of like even getting the concept of apprenticeship, with the industry. I think it'll find the right industry partners who can actually take a chance on not necessarily a new concept, but something that's new to their operating model, right? So one thing that I think we as an initial team were faced with is how do you articulate the value of apprenticeship and the registered apprenticeship specifically, right? Because I think some of the industry partners, they wanted to do apprenticeship, but they want to do their own. So maybe we talk about a little bit of that, like what's the value of a registered apprenticeship? And I think from my standpoint, it's something that's consistent, standards based, and everybody could follow, right? So what's the actual interpretation coming from an expert?
It's a great question. I think there is a misinterpretation. Again, it's just an education process that a registered apprenticeship program is going to require someone that the government's going to come in and tell me who I need to hire and what they need to do for me. And the reality is that registered apprenticeship is provides a nationally industry validated framework that any employer is able to take that framework and customize it to their occupational needs and integrate it with their existing hiring and learning and development divisions. So for example, right now we're working with two of the largest federal contractors that have very robust learning and development divisions. They have their in-house LMS. They know exactly what they need to do, who they need to hire, doing contract work for DoD. And so this apprenticeship format is something that they are pulling in to complement all of their other existing hiring, training, and retention strategies. And it provides a fast track to talent pipeline acquisition in some other ways. So for example, several of our partners work directly with the Department of Defense and have become SkillBridge approved. So through SkillBridge programs, which many of you may be aware of, transitioning service members can actually roll directly into a SkillBridge approved program, which we map directly to apprenticeship, and those transitioning service members are working for private industry for up to 6 months prior to separation, and they are fully paid by the military while they are doing that. So it's a win for the separating service member, it's a win for the employer, and it provides a great on-ramp into the civilian service. We recently were approved as a DoL Vets Employment Navigator partner. We did that in order to provide a direct pipeline to transitioning service members for our employer partners. So we receive referrals from military bases every day of transitioning service members and military spouses who said, we want to learn more about, we would like to be placed into an apprenticeship program, and we're able to immediately turn around and introduce those people to our hiring employers. So when you think of registered apprenticeship, what I like to say is that think about it as one really valuable tool in your toolkit that comes with a lot of benefits as it relates to tapping into a very large national network of resources and partners that can help supplement your work.
Yeah, no, and I think that's that network, the ecosystem, the resources that are there. I think it still needs to be tapped. Like there is this really underutilized pool of resources. I mean, just think about the training availability. I mean, trainings that you have available through Cybery and the mentorship and all that comes with it. I think it's something that everybody needs to tap into. What do you think is something that people can get started quickly? I know it's a one-page signature that all they need, but there's definitely a follow-up that needs to be from the wrap sign up sheet to actual execution. What does that on-ramp for a employer look like?
Yeah, so our team works directly with employers to figure out first, what does that occupation need? And then we give them a customizable framework for hiring and training. We take their existing hiring methods into consideration and basically turn back around and say, is this what you need? And once they sign onto our program, then we essentially are able to provide them with no cost online training if they want to access that for their apprentices. All that training is mapped to or actually embeds industry valued credentials and certifications. We're able to provide a small amount of incentive funding, and we're also able to provide ongoing practical assistance and support, whether it's referrals for candidates, introducing them to partners to strengthen their program, et cetera. So the engagement, and I'll leave some materials back with CFF, to be able to just look across that list of occupations to figure out what makes sense. And then we'll turn around a customizable framework for your organization to consider. And from there, it's just us supporting you in implementation.
Right. So I think this package is kind of ready. Right? I mean, it's been ready, and I think some of the employers have been able to take advantage of it from the get-go. Where do you think the stragglers can be converted? Where I know if you have really big good examples of implementation, then others look up to it as a model and then they follow it. Where do you see the challenge in the conversion, or those that are like on the fence, but we have to convert them, and then we need to what kind of do that?
I think there are a couple of hurdles that a couple of very common hurdles that we are working with employers to help them overcome. And I want to thank CFF, and I know Leah McLean is here. I want to recognize her work early on in this process as well to create innovative solutions to those hurdles. I think a key part of the adoption process is, first of all, is just a lack of understanding. So we try and get folks really clear really quickly on what apprenticeship is and isn't. I would say in terms of if there's a reticence to engage in this, a part of that is maybe folks still not completely grasping the totality of the fact that we have a significant structural shift in our labor market. It wasn't created by COVID. COVID exposed it. It is structural. It is long-term. And I think industries like tech that have relied on essentially what I would say is purchasing the end product of that K-12, K-20 process, purchasing the product that rolls off the K-20 conveyor belt in terms of students graduating with a degree in a field. What I continue, almost 100% of the conversations that I have with industry is twofold. Their concern is that folks that are graduating from these programs, for which they have always said that there's a minimum degree required, that those students still don't have any practical experience. And in large part, a lot of those degree programs are still not engaging industry in curriculum development and modification. So there's a real concern that even folks that could be hired in don't have the practical skill and knowledge to be able to contribute on day one. So the reality is that every company, just like COVID showed that every company has to become a digital company, the reality is that every company has to become a training company. It's a non-negotiable anymore for the next several decades, given our structured labor market. So I think the stragglers, in some cases, may be thinking, well, if we can just get through this next project, if we can get through this next series of fires, we'll get it figured out.
Yep.
And it really is going to take that mind shift of we need to employ more tools to not only hire people, but quite frankly, there aren't enough people graduating with computer science or relevant degrees on an annual basis to fill those holes. There has to be a training component. An apprenticeship provides a structured, customizable, and scalable training component from day one. So I think that's a conversation worth having, and I'm really grateful that CFF is advancing those conversations.
Well, and I think, from a CFF standpoint, we have been digging into this for quite long. We are, happy to see at least one program that is filling up a massive gap in between. I think it is as much as a resource gap as it is like a knowledge gap of what tools are available, right? And apprenticeship as a tool in cyber has not been ever used. So it's brand new for most of the employers, hiring managers, and those that really understand internship very easily, but they don't really switch out to apprenticeship. And again, the other thing I think we both learned together was that changing an operational model for someone, for a company, the way they hire, what they call, what they hire, and where they place them, how much they pay them, all of that is so much ingrained. I think systemic changes are absolutely necessary, and then hopefully, through this program, the next few years, we see that happen. What are your maybe we have a couple of minutes to think about what are your thoughts in getting more employers onboarded into this journey, and who do you think would be our models? You mentioned Manpower is one, that's already a great partner, right? What are the other characteristics you're looking for employers that we can take up as a model and say, okay, look, they're doing it, so you can. It's not impossible. You just have to be willing to take a chance on this.
Yeah. Certainly, apprenticeship can be used for everything from a very small business. We work with and support employers that employ fewer than 20 people, and they may only have 2 apprentices. That's fine. They now have a tool in place to transfer knowledge and build their workforce. We're also working with, as I mentioned, I'm not at liberty to share names of 2 of the largest federal contractors that we're hoping are going to have announcements here within the next 3 to 6 months about signing on new programs. I think in terms of what employers, what we would look for employers to do is just to share with us, these are the occupations that we're really currently, or we know we're going to need to, currently struggling to fill, or that we know we're going to need capacity for. And then we're able to, again, either provide them with a framework where they can join our program, or quite frankly, we also have partners that have large, what are called group programs, where they will provide the training and services. So there's a group called Expansion Step It Up out of the Northeast that has a registered apprenticeship program that engages Walmart, other very large name firms as well. Amazon has a registered apprenticeship program. That program is specifically for vets. So there are a lot of models out there, again, where employers, we can help them build and sponsor their own, or quite frankly, we know that that sponsorship component is not something that most are interested in. And so being able to have built a program that they can join, get that customizable framework, get assistance and being referred candidates, and then get some financial and partnership support for deploying. And we'd be happy to talk with anyone about how to do that.
Yeah.
And the timing is great. I know Paul was just here. The National Cyber Sprint is still happening. We're working with the Department of Labor and the White House on some culminating events where they're going to make some announcements, particularly with another partner of ours that's going to be announcing a national program. We also just have Worldwide Technology sign onto a program last month. And they just didn't have any concept that this was something that would be an available tool for them to engage new hires and upskill current workers. So that's part of the proof of concept too, right? Is getting these stories out there so that folks can see and point to, all right, these are companies that we know. If they're throwing in some time and resources into an apprenticeship to make it work for them, let's look into it ourselves.
Yeah, and you know, I would say our offer is that we will be able to give them a platform if they want to talk about, right? I think probably the next step is what we do is actually put some of the employers who have been successful at the apprenticeship program, not just by themselves, but with this registered apprenticeship program on, you know, in forums like this, or write a white paper that can be floated across the industry and take over something that, you know, people are thinking conceptually into real practice, give some case studies that can, you know, make this more concrete. So I think we have some pretty good next steps lined up. I'm looking forward to the next year of this program growing, and wish you all the best. Hopefully, you know, we can actually make a good dent in this numbers or cybersecurity in workforce in general, but apprenticeship in particular.
Absolutely.
So good.
Thank you, Val.
Katie, thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
And being with us for this afternoon. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.